Robin Nichols back here with some information about a little known feature in Photoshop Elements in the multimedia department. It's a slideshow maker, and it's like a little software application, I suppose, within Elements, and is hidden quite nicely, so that I'm quite sure a lot of people don't know it's there. You'll find it in the organizer under the Create label. Here we go, and there's a whole load of stuff in here, but one just very innocuous. It just says slideshow. So when we click on that, the slideshow preferences pop up, and I have to say I'm a little bit lazy. I don't change any of these because I think, well, I'm just going to go with these. But if you want to do that before you start, you can say, well, look, I just want everything to be, let's say, 3-second slides. I want to have a nice fade between them, and the transition can last, I don't know, 2 seconds, something like that. So background color, yeah, probably. And I'm going to apply pan and zoom to everything, and I'll explain what pan and zoom is very shortly. I don't want to use the captions as text. Do I have audio captions? I don't have any audio caption. Repeat soundtrack until the last slide. Yeah, that's probably okay. You don't need to worry about these settings too much, because once you're in the slideshow making application, you can change all these anyway, because you may find that the ones that you selected kind of don't work. Okay, so the most important thing to see is absolutely nothing. I haven't loaded any pictures. So if I had selected a bunch of pictures from the organizer window in the background, they would automatically appear in the main slideshow making viewer here. Having said that, I need to go and add media, photos and videos from Elements Organizer. So here they are. So I can just go through and just choose. In fact, I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to say add selected media. Bang, and then click done. It's kind of a curious thing because you actually have to go and click done to turn it off again. So it puts it into the timeline here. So the first slide is up here on the left hand side, and we can roll all the way through down to the last slide. If you don't like the order, click on quick reorder. Guess what that does? It shows all the pictures and allows me to right click and delete the obvious mistakes here. There's a few in here which I really don't want to use. Quite a few. There's a few overexposed ones, there's a few vertical ones. I kind of avoid vertical shots for the obvious reasons that they kind of look a bit weird. I'm going to select all my sumo shots and take them out, and there were some experimental shots here which I'm going to take out, so on and so forth. So you can go through all your shots and just add or subtract as many or as little as you want. My suggestion was don't use too many in a slideshow because you'll put the audience to sleep. I'm just thinking of my family slideshows from a few years ago where my parents would put together a little slideshow and then show all the neighbours really embarrassing over or underexposed pictures of our adventures camping in Wales or somewhere like that in the UK. But things have improved a little bit. And the main difference here, of course, is this is not really a slideshow. It ends up by being a movie. So we can play the movie on pretty much any computer, any iDevice or e-device, on a laptop, on a notebook, on a mobile phone, you name it, or we can upload it to a blog. So it's a pretty sort of ubiquitous, easy to use kind of situation there. So it's very, very nice. Okay, I think I've probably fiddled around with these enough. That doesn't even belong to Japan, and I've got a few doubles in here so I can get rid of those. Anyway, don't need to spend too much time. Let's go back and have a look here. I'll slide this along the timeline. Yes, we do have quite a few here. Now, as you noticed, I enabled pan and zoom. So what pan and zoom does is this. If I play the slideshow, there's always a little bit of a delay between pressing play and the slideshow actually starting. And there you go. It fades from one slide to another and it animates them. How cool is that? It's very, very nice. On a Mac, this is called the Ken Burns effect. And I'll just explain how this happens. Let's go to the opening slide, which is this little fella here. And if I go to enable pan and zoom, I can click on the start and say, look, when we start the slideshow, I want you to actually be quite close. Let's go here. I want you to be quite close. Probably not too close, but something like that. Okay. To finish the end of the pan and zoom, I want you to be, so it's gone a little bit sticky here. I want you to actually zoom out a tiny little bit. There we go, something like that. And just grab hold of a corner. Yeah, shrink it down. So in reality, this is what it looks like. So it starts off up close, so it'll enlarge the picture and then pan out as if the camera is pulling back like that. That's probably a little bit too quick, a little bit too swift. So the difference between the start and the finish is a little bit too dramatic. So I might just make it go a bit bigger and then click play and see what happens. A little bit more sensible. Now, The really cool thing about that's another mistake in here. I've accidentally got this is slipped in the slide frame, so I can actually just click it and push it around. Something like that, get it lined up. Now, you'll notice that when I actually click on a photo, it gets highlighted, so I can shrink the photo down if I want to do, if I really want to ruin the picture. But I can also choose crop to fit, or say fit on slide. So if you don't want a background, you don't want to have to deal with a background ever or at all, you can just do this crop to fit like that. I might just actually delete that slide and delete a couple more of these because they're not terribly relevant to what we're doing here tonight. Okay, but as you can see here, it's a very easy thing to do. I just click on it, crop to fit, and it just basically blows it up. It blows it up so that it fits on the frame there quite nicely. And again, the pan and tilt, or the pan and shift, is very, very nice little feature. But one of the things I would suggest you do is, rather than having the same pan and zoom effect on everything, go and reverse it. So you could, for example, take this and we can go and say zoom start, and you could just sort of, in this case, reverse it. So when it finishes, it actually zooms in. So if we have a look at this, it starts, takes a couple of seconds to load into the program there, starts big and zooms in. You can zoom in, zoom out. Whole range of things to do. Now I'll show you another little trick with this pan and zoom. I'm going to add a blank slide. So let's say I want to start with a blank slide. You do that by clicking add blank slide. And I'm going to add some text. And in order to add text, I can either just take the text tool and literally click it and type in here, or if I want to be a bit more stylish, I can choose one of these sort of preset recipes. They're not very good, but I'll just choose that one, double click it, and just call it Robin in Japan. Okay, and click OK. So what I can do is I can put a pan and zoom effect on this, and this may work quite nicely. So what we'll need to do here is go from Properties, and I'm going to change the color of the background, I think, to maybe just grey or something like that. There we go. That kind of looks a little bit better. And then if we take from the properties the pan and zoom, I say enable pan and zoom, what we can do is, this is very cool. I'm going to shrink this down and say start over here. This may be a little bit too speedy, and finish, we'll shrink it down. I'll try and get it approximately the same size, but we'll see what happens. Okay, and 3 seconds, I'm going to say no, make it go 5 seconds, because otherwise it's going to tear across the screen. So let's start it, and it's going to start from over there, and there we go. So again, it's still a little bit on the fast side, so instead of 5 seconds, let's make it 7 seconds, and click again and try that. And it goes back to the slide beforehand. That's a little bit better. Again, I'd probably slow that down even more. We're on 7 seconds here. We need to go to custom, so I can put in, I don't know, let's just try 10 seconds and click OK and try that. So you can obviously add the pan and zoom effect, the Ken Burns effect, to your text as well as to your images. So it's kind of a professional, very slick looking production. The transitions which we set in the preferences were fade. So if anybody's ever used PowerPoint, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. Here they all are, just by clicking on this funny little symbol in between the two slides. So you can change it from fade to any one of the other PowerPoint style transitions. I think fade is probably the least nasty. Some of them are a little bit naff anyway, but this one is kind of the subtlest, and it produces a nice smooth transition, which is exactly what it's supposed to be, in between slide 1 and slide 2 and so on and so forth. It's actually quite a nice little feature. Okay, what else do we need to know about making a slideshow? As I mentioned, that got a little bit stuck there, didn't it? So the problem there, of course, is at the end, when it finishes, it's still on over the end. So I probably need to just push that in a little bit so that when it finishes, hopefully, the N from Japan actually disappears off the screen. That's kind of important there. And of course, I'm just going from left to right or right to left. You can go up and down or in and out as well if you wanted to do that. There you go. And that just pans in very nicely to the next slide. Wow. So it does look fairly impressive. Let's just blow this up, crop to fit. Click on this, crop to fit, and so on and so forth. When we click on a photo, of course, we can reposition the photo, and I'm just pressing crop to fit, of course, but we can change it to black and white or to sepia as well. So there are a couple of other things we can do. We could auto smart fix, and we can click on More Editing. And what this does is take it out of this program and stick it in the editor for more sophisticated. So, for example, if you wanted to do a bit of cloning or retouching, you could do that. And of course, if you want to really, you can actually zoom right in on a part of the slide as well. But of course, we can do that using that pan and shift, or pan and zoom function that I've just shown you. There are a number of other sort of oddities to this program, including the ability to add very odd looking things like rabbits and deer. And these are just clip art things, so I guess really they're made for fun. You can put kids' photos in here and you can slap slugs and seahorses and monkeys all over them. For some reason it takes forever to translate the graphic into the slide window here, maybe because I've just got so many slides and they're all fairly high resolution. Now you will also notice that, there it comes, there's the little deer, and I can just grab a corner, make the deer go big or small and big it up. Okay, I'm just going to have to delete this, I don't like this at all, so just delete that out of the way. You'll notice also that as we proceed I've had to enlarge some of the slides, and I'm doing that simply because the format that I've shot the pictures in is not the same as the format of the slideshow. So the format I've shot them is kind of HD format, which is slightly wider and less high than the typical digital camera format, which is 4:3. So one of the things you can do as a preparation is simply to go through and crop all the pictures going into your slideshow to a 4:3 format, and you do that in the editor window. So that's just a little bit of a tip in order to reduce the amount of work. Otherwise you've got to go through here, and as you've seen here in the properties window, there we go, you have to go through and sort of crop to fit and fiddle around. But you know, sometimes that's okay as well, because you know, you can customize it and say, well, I want to have a little bit over that way, or I can just be very, very subtle, which is not really my usual forte, but I do try it from time to time. And you can do this pan and tilt business like this, and you can just be very, very subtle and just add a tiny little bit of movement to the show. And so all this is going to do is just shift it very, very slightly. So just give an indication that it's actually not entirely a static show. It really adds a massive improvement to the picture, or the picture show, if you animate it. Okay, now moving on, we have obviously the ability to add a blank slide, we have the ability to add text, we have the ability to add media, which includes not only photos and videos from the organizer or from any folder on your computer or associated hard drives, but also you can grab audio from the organizer. This obviously requires us to have MP3 or songs, titles, tunes downloaded from wherever on our computer. It's very important at some stage to save your project, because otherwise you're going to lose everything you've done, and that's just very, very annoying. When we've finished, it has the ability to stick it back into the organizer. So you can go into the organizer, you'll see your slideshow appear. There it is, there's the slideshow. It's automatically appeared in the organizer. So when I've finished here, I can just say, yep, okay, fine. And then tomorrow or whenever, when I get up, I thought, wow, I'm going to actually go back and re-edit this. So I just go and double click. It goes and finds all the components, the links, the text and the graphics and the special effects, and opens them all up together in the slideshow maker window that we've just been having a look at. Here we go. Once it wakes up, I'm going to have to close the program. That's fantastic. And we'll hopefully proceed. This is fantastic, isn't it, when you have a demonstration and the whole program just closes down on you. We'll be back when normal service has been resumed. So finally, having double-clicked the little icon, it reopened again. There was a little bit of I think a PC hissy fit there, but it finally opened. So I can just get back in here and carry on editing. I can add or subtract pictures, you name it, I can do it. So that's a brief overview. It's actually a very powerful, very useful little program. I like it a lot. It's one of those undiscovered gems that you find in the back end of a program from time to time. So it contains all the stuff in it in order to make fantastic little slideshows. Finally, of course, we have to output the thing, and we have a couple of output possibilities. We've actually got three. Save it as a regular file, burn it to a disk, or edit with Premiere Elements. Premiere Elements is the introduction video editing application, which is a very good little powerful program. So it's really designed for video, and so as you're outputting a WMV movie file, it's perfect for editing in Elements if you want to add color effects or special effects to it. Generally, we just save it as a file, as a movie, and we can choose the quality, and I'm just going to say, let's go for the biggest quality, which is 1024 by 760. Click OK, and it's just going to go onto the desktop and away we go. What it's going to do now is render those files, and this may take a while, so I'll just pause the recording and we'll come back when it's all finished. So the output or rendering process always takes a bit of a while. So if you're in a hurry, just make sure you leave plenty of time to do it. You can't just go, okay, finish, let's bring the neighbors around to show them, set them up in the front room, because it will take, if you've got 50 or 60 or 100 slides, it's going to take maybe half an hour or 45 minutes. It all depends on how many elements you've got stuck into the timeline down the bottom here. Now it's saying, do you want to bring your WMV file into the catalog? And I go, yeah, of course I do. So if I close this down now, you will see two files have magically appeared in the organizer window. One, as we've tried before, just before the program froze up, is the components. And this is the little thing, I suppose, that holds all those components together. This allows me to go back into the slide making software in order to mess around or change, improve or delete or add extra slides. The one on the right hand side, as the little film strip indicates, is the video itself. So here we go. It comes up in its own little WMV player. It's doesn't actually fit the window terribly well, but you can see. Obviously, I need to go back and change some of the speed. So I always find when I'm making a slideshow like this, A, it needs a soundtrack, but B, it certainly needs rendering and playing a couple of times, just so that we've got an idea of whether the transitions are in the right direction, if they're too fast or too slow, or if the soundtrack works for it. And that's how we work with the slideshow component in Photoshop Elements.